Welcome once again to Cinemaholics, the major motion podcast where we talk about the biggest and the best films coming to theaters and streaming online, and sometimes playing at a symphony near you. That's right, from the San Francisco Bay Area, it's me, John Negroni, film editor for not theyoungfolks.com. There's been a big change. Before we get to that, from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, he's a news and entertainment writer at Collider. It's Will Ashton. Hey, Will.
Hello. Hey. How you doing?
I'm okay. I called you a news and entertainment writer again. I forgot what you wanted it to change to. Was features editor? What are you?
Whatever. I am who I am. That's all I can say.
All right. Collider's main software engineer, Will Ashton. You said I could do that. Okay. Big news. Big news. We weren't able to talk about it last week because the news became public like right when we published our last episode of Cinemaholics, where we talked about Decision to Leave. But Will Ashton, the rumors are true. It's the Young Folks is no more. The Young Folks has shut down as of November 1st. No more articles are being posted to the Young Folks. But that's strange. You don't seem very sad. You don't look as if you lost something all that important and dear to you. I wonder why that is.
Well, I would assume you have some sort of announcement to make.
Some sort of announcement indeed. It's like I teed you up for it on purpose. It is true that the Young Folks is shutting it down. It was the decision of the owner of the site, Gabrielle Bondi, who started the site back in 2010. Now, for those of you who don't know, the Young Folks was being run by a team of editors, but not by Gabby. Gabby left the Young Folks a few years ago, and I became film editor. Allison Johnson became editor-in-chief. And of course, we have our other wonderful editors there as well. And we've been doing the site ourselves for a while now. However, when we found out that the site was going to be shut down, we decided we want to stick together. We like writing together and working together and everything like that. So we are officially starting our own new show, our show. I have podcasts on the brain or something. We're starting our own new platform, our new outlet. And it is going to be launching probably by the time you listen to this, because we should be releasing this, I think, the same day, November 8th. So I don't even know, Will, if I'm supposed to say anything super specific yet. I guess I will because I want to. But the new site is called In Between Drafts. So inbetweendrafts.com. And you should be able to check it out as soon as you hear me say it. And it's pretty exciting stuff. I want to talk about it a lot more as we start to fill it out and everything. But yeah, if I sound a little tired, it's because literally we have spent the last few weeks just, working on this site, building it, trying to make it better than, we could hope. And obviously there are a lot of emotions, a lot of bittersweet emotions about the Young Folks going away. I mean, the only thing I'll say for now about it is, it's been one of my main outlets, of course, since 2018. That's the first thing I wrote. And it's fun. The editors, we got together and we were looking at like our first post that we ever did. And I know, Will, my first one, I don't know if you remember, but the first thing I ever wrote for the site was about the end of the effing world on Netflix. And I guess that sums things up pretty well. The first one was the end of the effing world. But yeah.
The end is beginning is the end.
Yeah, that was a sentence. And I know you were writing for Young Folks before I did, and
yeah,
I don't know how you're feeling. I assume you were as bummed out as I was, if not more so, to hear about it going away.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a site I've been writing for on and off, I think, for the past few years, at least, I think, going back to 2016. Yeah, I mean, it was thankfully only like a momentary sadness, because initially I thought it was going to be an entire loss. But then, shortly after that announcement, you told me that, it was revealed that there would be a new site, which would hopefully host a lot of the previous articles in addition to a bunch of new and exciting content. I don't even know if you're allowed to say what stuff will be on In Between Drafts that isn't already on the Young Folks, like the new editors or any of the new content you're going to be looking to explore. I don't want to reveal anything that's premature, but
sure, I can talk about it a little bit. We're actually not going to start bringing on over posts that were on the Young Folks until the new year. So we'll be starting totally from scratch at the very beginning. And that's just because the young folks will still technically be like live. It'll still exist for another 2 months because we're giving the writers from over the years, a lot of writers, the young folks over the last decade or so, we want to give them time to back up their posts and everything, have everything saved. But we're also working on some posts that we want to bring over from the young folks, stuff we're really proud of, that we want to, bring forth to this new site so that they can still see the light of day, of course, but can't do that quite yet. That said, I know for this site, we're seeing it as a really great opportunity because it's going to be our thing, right? And the whole goal of the young folks back in 2010 was that the original founders, they wanted a site that was more diverse, that represented the voices of a younger generation, and that's what the young folks has been for a long time. But now, at this point, a lot of us kind of look at a site called the Young Folks and are like, not all of us are that young anymore. And we wanted to do, kind of update it too and do our own thing that's like based on a brand that we put together ourselves. And that's kind of what In Between Drafts is getting at. It's something that we want to make it feel like it's the next step of the young folks, but also be its own thing, separate from the young folks, of course. And the other editors, we really just we cover games, movies, film on my end, of course, books. We're also introducing a new category of anime and manga. It's going to be awesome, but I'm very excited to share more about that as time goes on. And also for those of you listening who like our other show that Will and I do that we did for the young folks called Mad Men, it's been on hiatus because of this transition. We haven't been able to publish anything, but starting soon, it's going to be coming back for season 2 because we just finished season 1 of Mad Men on that show, but it's going to be part of In Between Drafts now. And we're also looking at having a tighter relationship between Cinemaholics and this new site as well, since, it kind of makes sense. But no huge changes on any of that stuff anytime soon. The feeds should all be staying the same. So if you have these podcasts downloaded and everything, you shouldn't have to worry about anything like that, especially for the time being. We have no plans really to mess with any of that stuff. So yeah, a lot to get through. I'm already emotional. Well, we haven't even gotten to the movie. All this drama before we got to the drama.
Yeah. No, I think it's going to be a very exciting and promising series of developments, and I'm excited to see the new site when it goes live tomorrow. I've seen a preview, I guess. I've seen like a teaser for the site, but I haven't seen the real deal, the actual site itself. So I'm excited for that to debut very soon, if it's not already debuted by the time you're listening to this here episode.
Yeah, we worked pretty hard on it. And very, very excited because we're going to be one of our first things on there is going to be my review of Black Panther Wakanda Forever, because the embargo is about to lift. So that's going to be live. And I guess it's pretty fitting that that's going to be, a movie called, Wakanda Forever being one of the first posts on this new site. There we go. Better than the end of the effing
well,
a little less bleak, right?
You say that, but I think my first thing on there is going to be my review of Armageddon Time, which is a little disconcerting for me. So,
that's true,
yeah.
That's true. Yeah. I'm just kind of like pushing it over to you, I guess. But anyway, lots of other stuff to talk about and announce on that front, but we'll leave it there for now. Any questions, of course, just hit us up via email if you're curious. And I know a lot of our people in the Cinemaholics community aren't that attached to the young folks, I assume. So I don't think too many people will be that upset about it, I guess. I don't know. But if you are, let me know, because I want to know.
So presumptuous, Jonathan.
I guess so, yeah, a little presumptuous on it. Before we get into things, I know there's a bunch of other stuff that came out that I'm really looking forward to seeing. I mean, I hope that I can catch Weird, the Al Yankovic story this week. I want to, but I have so many screenings. I don't know how I'm going to be able to fit it in. But you haven't seen it yet, right?
No, I haven't seen that. There are quite a few things that have recently come out or just came out that I want to see. Probably the biggest one, if I can pronounce the title correctly, is The Banshees of Inisherin, or Inisherin, however you pronounce that.
Inisherin, yeah.
Inisherin. Is it like Ed Sheeran, but like Eddie Sheeran?
Inisherin.
Yeah.
And it's a fictional place, so I can't fault you too much. But I cannot wait. I'm ambling for you to see that because I want to talk to you about it. I think it would be a great discussion.
Yeah, I've heard, incredible things. I mean, not only from you, but from many other critics and audiences. It seems to be, if not the best reviewed film of the year so far, certainly in the top 5 or 3. So I've had sort of a I don't know. I don't know what word it would be to use to Martin McDonagh's filmography. I feel it's kind of been diminishing returns for me since In Bruges, but I just love In Bruges so much, and I'm really excited for that collaboration, that reunion of those three central people. Obviously, him, and then Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson. So
I think I'm three billboards outside of Ebbing, Missouri, kind of soured some folks on McDonagh, but I feel like his stage work and everything he's done on that end will always be, highly cherished, right? I
mean, an undeniable talent, I think, but I mean, I just think, Seven Psychopaths, fun movie, not In Bruges, but fun. And then, I think Three Billboards, there's stuff in it I like. There's a lot of stuff in it that I'm just kind of frustrated by. I don't know. Maybe it's a film I need to revisit. I don't know. It's a film I've had sort of mixed feelings on. So I wasn't.
We got to save this all for the review. Will you're doing your McDonagh profile a little early.
But yeah, there's other things. I mean, Till, I still need to see. I know you're very high.
I was about to say Till is the highest rated movie playing right now, and it is one of the highest of the rated of the year. It's higher rated than Banshees of Inisherin.
You mean like Rotten Tomatoes wise, or review like Metacritic wise? Because I feel like Metacritic it's not as high.
I'd have to double check Metacritic, but yeah, Till is pretty highly rated. I know a lot of people look at it and they assume like a certain sort of thing from it because of the subject matter, but it's a very good movie, and I think it's better than some people are giving it credit for, including Will Ashton, co-host of Cinemaholics.
So yeah, it looks like Banshees is 87 on Metacritic and Till is 78. So definitely
that's Banshees, pretty close, right? And both of those are pretty
high. But no, I do think. I mean, I'm not trying to put down Till. I'm sure it's a good film, and I'm curious to see it. I might try to squeeze that in this week because I'm pretty sure it's going to be leaving theaters near me sooner rather than later. I've been trying to catch up on all these movies that are just kind of coming and going of good note around me, like Triangle of Sadness.
I still haven't seen Causeway. I haven't. Yeah, I obviously everyone already knows. I mean, you didn't have to. I don't even have to say this out loud, I suppose. But I did see One Piece film Red, which that was just an experience. For One Piece fans like myself, who
how did that?
Yeah, we have our own corner of the world. There's billions of us, of course, and we're having fun.
How'd that do at the box office? I was very curious to see how
very
that
well. I think it's the most successful One Piece movie yet.
Okay.
I think it made somewhere around 9 million or something compared to One Piece Stampede, I think was the last one that made maybe 3 million. So it is doing super well. And that's because One Piece is in the middle of really just kind of ebbing into it just started its final saga. One Piece, for those of you who don't know, is one of the most successful anime of all time. It's one of the most best-selling pieces of fiction of all time, above J.K. Rowling, because of the manga. The manga is over 1,000 chapters. Chapter 1065 just came out this past week. And it's just one of the biggest. It's something that I know not a ton of Americans know about. A lot of us grew up though, kind of maybe seeing One Piece on 4Kids and stuff when we were, I think it was on Toonami, but I don't know how many people saw it on Toonami. That said, One Piece is still ongoing. It's been going since the late 90s. It's like Doctor Who for anime fans, I guess. But it is going to end. They're going to get to the final, saga, and it's heating up a lot. The interest in One Piece is I've never seen it this active. I don't think I've seen it this active since one of the big arcs back in 2009, 2008, which was just this big culmination thing. And we're heading toward another sort of event era. One Piece Film Red is basically filler, but it's really, really fun filler. And what I mean by that is it's not part of the main canon story of One Piece, but it has a lot of stuff in it that is obviously painting toward what is coming. And it's a lot of fan service. And I think the best way. Now, obviously the people listening are well, what does Will think? Because Will obviously likes One Piece, but I have some bad news on that front.
Yeah, I can't say I'm too into anime, though. I sometimes feel like I'm in an anime sandwich of some sort, because I've told you, John, that my roommate is very much into anime, and obviously you're very into anime, so I get caught into these anime conversations that I have no point of reference to for the most part.
Yeah,
so.
You're what is it with all these chainsaw men and these spy families?
Yeah, sure.
I can't keep up.
Yeah. But
I've told you, Will, on the sly, and this is kind of a fun tangent, but I genuinely I watch anime more than most things these days, TV wise and movie wise, because I think right now anime is going through a really good period, peak fiction, as the kids like to call it, because I just think that like some of the best storytelling is coming out of like really good anime right now. And it has been like anime has been pretty good for a while, but this season in particular is like just amazing stuff coming out. So that's all I'll say. That's why.
Yeah, I can't really comment on anime one way or the other as far as its current season or status, whatever word you use to describe it.
We don't have any updates on the Pizza Wars. We did get one more voicemail, but it was a feather in the cap of the anti-Domino's folks and the pro Pizza Huts. So it looks like Will might win this feud, this war. But you won the battle, Will. I don't know if you won the war yet. So
I think you got it backwards. I think I've won the battle but lost the war. In the scheme of things, because it seems like Domino's culturally is at a better place than Pizza Hut, but.
Culturally, what do you mean by that?
I don't know. It just seems like business wise, it seems like Domino's is probably thriving in a way that, Pizza Hut's floundering. They don't have the pizza buffets anymore. They don't have, all these things that initially made it so.
Ultimately, taste wins out in the end. Well, that's all it comes down to, right?
Oh, man. Yeah. I can't say I agree with that, but, to each their own.
We'll keep you all posted. I know that's why the main reason you come back to the show every week, even if you're not interested in the movies. But hopefully you're interested in this movie we're about to talk about now, because it is quite a big one in terms of the main...
I was going to say, sorry to interrupt you, but I was going to say, I would love if someone went out and saw Tar because they were so infatuated with our pizza conversation. And they're at the movies like, how did you hear about this film? And you're like, Domino's.
I didn't know Tar was doing like a promotional tie-in with Tar. That would be pretty amazing, actually. But no, when I say that this is like a big movie, obviously it's not like a big box office movie, right? I mean, it's only made 3.7 million at the box office. It's playing in select theaters, I think, at this current moment. I don't know if it's open like wide yet, or if it's going to. Probably though, when Oscar season really comes about, this is one of those movies I could see, getting nominated for Best Picture, and then of course Cate Blanchett and all that. So it could get like an Oscar push later. But it's big in terms of, if you're following the cinematic landscape, this is definitely a big festival darling, something that I think a lot of folks are excited to maybe champion this coming season. It's making the top of some best of the year list. But what do we think? Let's get into it. So Tar is the third film from writer, director, and actor Todd Field. His last work was the 2006 drama, the acclaimed 2006 drama, Little Children. To this day, it has one of my favorite movie trailers ever. It's a fantastic trailer. I would even just, if you haven't seen the movie, or even if you haven't thought about it in a while, I would check out the trailer for Little Children on YouTube, because it is how you do a trailer, I think, in my opinion. So Todd Field is back after 16 years. Again, 2006, not 2016. It's been 16 years since his last film, which was a big, awards favorite.
Sure.
But he's back with a vengeance here. He made I think it's easy to call Tar like a low-key psychological drama. It's not very like heightened.
No, I got
just in the sense that like, I think that it's a drama. I'm talking about the psychological stuff. Like sometimes I think people hear psychological and they think like psychological thriller, but it's not that at all. It's very cerebral. Compared to something like
that's true. So, yeah.
That's all I'm trying to get at.
Sure. I do want to talk about, obviously I have a lot to say about the film. I'm very curious to hear what you think about the film, but I did want to talk a little bit about Todd Field, because he's a filmmaker that I remember as a teenager watching, like Little Children, his previous film, and In the Bedroom, his directorial debut, and just feeling like, man, like this is such a, it was like that age, like around 2006, when I was really getting into film as a like serious thing, like not just as a pastime.
Yeah, I was high school. I think you're probably middle school around.
Yeah, middle school. And I remember Little Children and In the Bedroom, when I saw them, were very much like films where I was like, okay, like I'm watching some adult cinema here. Like this is like, heightened stuff. And I don't know how you feel about his films, or your relationship to his filmography, if you've seen his previous two films, but I've been chomping at the bit personally for his comeback as a filmmaker.
Yeah, like I said, I'm a big fan of Little Children. I just think that, top to bottom, that movie works. And I like it even more than In the Bedroom, which I think is also very strong work. In the Bedroom, I think it was like 2000, 2001. So in terms of this film, yeah, comeback is the right word. And when I say low-key, what I'm trying to get at is that it's not the kind of movie where just stuff is flying at you. It's not like very plot heavy in a way that I think a lot of people might assume it is. But of course, there is a plot. Stuff is happening. So the movie itself is following the life and potential downfall of the world famous conductor named Lydia Tár, played by Cate Blanchett in, what will almost certainly be her next nomination for Best Actress. And some might argue, I would argue, her most deserving yet, which is saying quite a lot. She's had some great roles over the years, some stuff that she's been snubbed for, some stuff she's won that, good. I think she won, what was it, for Blue Jasmine?
That was her previous Best Actress win. I believe she also won Best Supporting Actress for The Aviator. Or no, that was Tilda Swinton, right? Or am I mixed them up?
Yeah, I'll have to look that up. But I don't remember her winning Best Supporting Actress. But yeah, actually, you know what? No, that was her in Aviator. So you should be right about that, right? I don't think that was Tilda Swinton. We'll look into it.
Yeah, okay. So you are
Hepburn.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I just want to make sure that I think I was for a moment I was mixing her up with Tilda Swinton for Michael Clayton because I think she won for supporting act. Okay, but yeah, no, I was
to be totally honest. Aviator is not a movie I think of often, so it took me a second.
Sure. No, I just was making.
She did win for Blue Jasmine, the Woody Allen film.
Right. Yeah, which I think she's fantastic in that film. Yeah, I would say The Aviator.
She should have won for Carol.
Certainly would have been more deserving, I think, than The Aviator. But I like that film fine. I think by Scorsese,
for Best Actress, not for Best Supporting. I think she should have gotten Best Actress for Carol.
No, I understand. No, I'm saying if she had gotten 3 or 2 Oscars before this, it would make more sense for Carol and Blue Jasmine as opposed to Blue Jasmine and The Aviator. That's what I'm trying to say. But no, I don't think The Aviator is like one of her best performances, nor is it one of Scorsese's best films. But I like it fine. If it gave her the platform to give the performances that she's been giving throughout the past decade, 2 decades, then I applaud it for that.
I know you look at her filmography and you're just like, well, where'd you go, Bernadette? That was the one where she was, clearly gunning for Best Actress, and then some. Yeah, but no, I know a lot of people come to mind of her when it comes to like her playing Queen Elizabeth, of course, Galadriel from Lord of the Rings, and yeah, she's always going to be one of our most iconic, modern actresses, I think. And just great to see her in a film like this that I think is actually really paying close attention to, I think, her deepest strengths as an actor, which she has a bit of an edge to her that I think sometimes her roles don't fully capitalize on. Sometimes they do. I don't know.
Well, but, yeah, I was going to say not only an edge, but a sort of like mystique at times. Like there's often like this kind of unknowable quality about her. Like there's like, you can constantly kind of see like the clock ticking in her brain, but there's something that's like almost kind of hard to read or unknowable about her. Even when she's very, very present, very emotional. It's just very fascinating to me.
Yeah. I've always liked to think of her as like our modern Lauren Bacall, honestly, where she's like a modern femme fatale or like an elevated femme fatale kind of actress in a lot of her roles. So, and
I thought that's why I was very inspired casting for her in Nightmare Alley last year, though I don't think that was like her greatest showcase.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, that was a bit unfortunate, that one. But anyway,
I still
we'll talk about Del Toro pretty soon, won't we, with Pinocchio?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But anyway, back to Tár. We mainly witness the daily life of this person, a fictional person, of course, the daily life of Lydia Tár, as she navigates the politics of the Berlin Philharmonic, in which she is their first female chief conductor. We see her in high-profile interviews. I think it would put for the New York Film Festival. We see her guest teaching a class at Juilliard, and overall, she has this subtle but certainly noticeable issue with how she manages her own power in these social hierarchies. But another way, she's like a toxic human being. But I think she's toxic in a very interesting, more human way than a lot of movies tend to get at. In this, even in our sort of like film festival vein of like what's coming out these days, she's. In one scene, for example, she'll be very kind, she'll be very caring, like with her wife and her child, her wife played by Nina Haas, but then she'll be just quietly ruthless. Not even quietly ruthless, but just like ruthless with a student in that class I mentioned for Juilliard, where he doesn't even realize he's being eviscerated until it's too late. There's also, though, a very apparent thread of her grooming young women, with hints of it happening in the past, perhaps with her dedicated assistant, played by Nomi Merlant, and then also a former member of, I think it was her fellowship program, named Krista, who was then sort of excommunicated from the symphonic community. And as this film proceeds, we follow a sort of a grooming in action, with a promising young cellist named Olga, played by Sophie Kauer. And this is where I mean by like the low key stuff. There's a lot that you don't see. A lot of stuff that's more implied, where you have to sort of fill in the blanks yourself. But it's so, apparent what's going on that it's hard to deny, right? And on that note, go ahead, but I had a big note on that.
Sure. Well, I guess for me, where I push back on that is that I feel like this is the type of film from the very, very beginning that kind of lays all the cards on the table, in the sense that, like, it doesn't really withhold a whole lot of information, in the sense that, like you kind of gradually learn a lot about Lydia as the movie goes on, but like it's very upfront about like who she is, and like how she has this core of inflated sense of self, this sort of like ego that's been built and self-defined, but like obviously there's all these other people that are kind of building that clout and that mystique, and that she's the one that kind of is buying her own illusion the most, and therefore the one who's most likely to be kind of caught up in the tragedy and the downfall of her inability to kind of learn her own lessons. And so I think for me, like it's not low key, or it's not low key in the sense that like it's like kind of subtle and like those sort of details, but I guess compared to like other films, like it's kind of presenting it in a very mature, in a way that like respects the audience's intelligence, as far as like it's not going to spoon feed everything to you. I guess that's where
exactly.
You're kind of yeah.
That's why maybe it's not the best way to describe that, but yeah, it's not the kind of movie where she looks at the camera or she has a conversation, like an Oscar clip moment with someone where she's like, "But I'm Lydia Tár." It just does not go down that road, because I think Phil is a much better writer than that. And I'm glad you mentioned that too, because obviously ready to hear your overall thoughts on the movie, but I want to start it in this place, because I think that there's already a narrative about this film from the critical community that I think we should address, because we are going to be talking about this a little bit later than some of the other film critics out there. But many have called Tar a film about cancel culture, or the idea of how celebrities can be undermined or taken down by organized social media hit campaigns, while other people have totally rejected that this movie's about cancel culture and have said like, no, you're missing the point and all that. I personally came away from the film honestly believing that it's not about cancel culture, just cancel culture is in it. It's part of the plot machinations. I think it's foolish to say that like cancel culture doesn't come into play with this movie. Now I have my own hangups about how obsessed Hollywood and stand-up comedians and everybody's obsessed with cancel culture, and I think in an inflated way. But I think what's interesting about this movie to me is that I think it's about something much deeper and more complex than what we think about when we think about backlash right now. Like I think honestly, it has a more timeless take on cancel culture that is more understanding of what came before in terms of that sort of thing. And it's, to what you were saying, more mature about it, more honest about it, rather than something like, I even mentioned in my review, I haven't seen She Said yet, the Harvey Weinstein kind of recounting. I think that this might be like the antithesis to that movie in that sense, because it's not going to be, I don't think it's reactionary.
I was going to say the same thing, but I thought that would be too mean because I haven't seen that film yet. But I saw that trailer
I'm
again.
I'm not trying to cast any, but you can watch the trailer for She Said and really draw some conclusions, right?
Honestly, I mean, I was going to say I saw the trailer for that again before this movie. Like just before it started, they play that trailer, and it's kind of night and day as far as like, I mean, look, I'm going to go into She Said with an open mind. I'm hoping it's good. I mean, I like journalism movies. I'm a journalism major.
Same here.
But yeah, I mean, it just looks very sort of artless in how it presents these things. And it's very like
it's straightforward.
It's very straightforward.
Some people prefer. They want that kind of accounting of things, don't they?
Yeah, it's very on the nose about it. It's very direct, which is fine. I mean, if that's what you want out of the film, if you want, exactly what you're going to get, if you want kind of like what you see on the menu is what you're going to get from the film, that's fine. But this is obviously something a lot more weighted and meaty and dense and methodical in how it's presenting this information. But I mean, to your point, I do agree that like it's this movie was being written, I believe, this is like his pandemic project from what I had read. Like he wrote this within the span of, I think 3 months during lockdown, which is crazy to me. But yeah, it's obviously coming out around, being conceived around 2020. Maybe the idea was there before or whatever, but that conversation, the cancel culture, Me Too, what have you, is integral to the film in the sense that like that's a conversation being had, but that's more of like a launching point than the whole article of the film. Like it's obviously going for something a lot more complicated, a lot more humane, a lot more nuance in that conversation. But yeah, I mean, you can't say it's not that, but that's not only what it is.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And especially because I think that, it's not sort of coming out at a time where, the Me Too movement is in like happening that much. I think that like we're kind of in the post Me Too where it's still a thing. Like it's still something that I think a lot of people are thinking about and talking about, but there has been time to kind of settle on what, the consequences, what the effects have been or lack of effects or what have you. And I've seen some people also look at this movie and say that like, hey, this movie is like, anti-women, or it's trying to be like, oh my gosh, like, saying that a woman could be Harvey Weinstein and stuff like that. And I think that that's speaking to, my opinion, what's really brilliant about the movie. It's trying to show in a gender neutral way that like this is what power does. And this is how like a lot of people in Hollywood use identity politics, something that this character cast so many aspersions to in the beginning of the film. They use it to sort of protect themselves from accountability. And it's something that Harvey Weinstein did. Like specifically, he did that to sort of like curry favor with the like kind of intelligentsia of Hollywood to protect himself. And it's stuff like that I think like, again, speaks to how this movie has so much more on its mind than just trying to have a simplistic, like this was bad and you should feel bad about it. But instead being like, this happened and this is very interesting. Let's examine all the factors that went into how monsters like this survive and thrive in places where you would think, the arts would shield people from this kind of abuse. So anyway, that's a long preamble for you, Will. I really want to know what you think about this movie. I think it's clear for people listening that I'm a big fan. I think it's very, very good.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny that you bring up that we're doing this late because I just saw this movie yesterday, just by nature of the film not really coming out near me until later. So I feel like I'm at somewhat of a disadvantage compared to you because you've seen this movie. You saw it like, what, a month or two ago by now?
About a month ago. I've had
yeah.
a lot of time to really sit on it. Yeah.
Right. And this is the type of film that it's, I do love that we can have a podcast where we can kind of give our initial reactions to films and, like really kind of evaluate films as they're coming out and have like kind of like a time mark of what the reaction is initially at that time. But this is the type of film that I feel like you really need to like sit with and process and, really digest fully, because it is not a film that you can like have just sort of that initial reaction to. I mean, I think you can in the sense that like I think this movie is really profound. I think it's very beautifully made. I think it's so dense and layered and methodical and meticulous in how it's made. And I think it is going to probably withstand the test of time as one of the great films of 2022. But I mean, we're coming off of a guy who very directly is a protege of Kubrick, which is an obvious comparison. But this guy, I mean, he was in Eyes Wide Shut. He's Nick Nightingale. He obviously was under the tutelage of Kubrick. And I've even seen some people say that this is like the Kubrick gets canceled kind of movie, where it's like, what if Stanley Kubrick was alive in 2022 and got canceled? Which, I mean, is that in the film? I don't know, maybe. But I mean, I think that understanding of film in the way that like when you watch a Kubrick film, you don't really watch it until you've seen it probably like 4 or 5 times. You know what I mean? Like you have to kind of like really process it, read maybe a little bit about it, watch it a second time, watch it a third time, and then you really get the full density, if you ever really get the full density of a film. And I feel like I'm kind of at that point right now with Tar, where it's just like, this is such a complex, nuanced, beautifully layered film, as I said. And so I don't know if my initial reaction is going to be as I don't know if it matches the profoundness of the film as I see at the moment, but I undeniably am a fan of the film. I feel like I'll try to kind of match what my feelings are at the film with this conversation, but I feel like I'm only going to come short in the long run at this moment.
Yeah, I said in my I got some flack for this one, but I said in my letterbox review of this that finally a Whiplash movie for people who hate La La Land. Which is just me being a little bit, cheeky, I guess. But honestly, I think why this movie grabbed me like from the get go, like I didn't have that sort of initial reaction where like, I'm not 100% sure how I think about this. I think this is such a great case study in how an ending can be so perfect that I think that even though I was really sort of still battling with myself about what I thoroughly believed about the movie and what it was saying, the ending absolutely it's perfect. I think it's one of the few endings that I think actually is perfect for the actual movie. I think it makes the movie even better. I think that it brings everything to fruition in a satisfying way, which reminds me a lot of Whiplash. But I think a lot of people look at, the movie Whiplash and like it, but they look at something like La La Land
Right.
and they're like, okay, like,
right.
Time to wake up, kid, you're dreaming.
Mm-hmm. It's so funny too that you mentioned that, because there's a moment here, without giving anything away, where it looks like it's kind of going for like a cheaper version of the Whiplash ending. Yeah. And that just completely subverts that. And I think that's so great because I think part of the thing I love about the film, in addition to many other things we have discussed and will discuss, is that I really, throughout the film, had no clear idea of like what was going to happen. Like I had an idea, like there's obviously the foreshadowing of her going to get quote unquote canceled, like the idea that like there is this foreshadowing of doom for her career, but like on a scene by scene basis, I really wasn't certain what was going to happen. And that's such an invigorating thing to watch as a film watcher, certainly one that watches many films as we do, kind of just not really knowing on a scene by scene basis where things are going to go, but knowing you're in the hands of a filmmaker who's going to guide this with such competence and, thoroughness and thoughtfulness.
Yeah, I love being in Todd Field's hands. It has been so sad to see him. It's not like he's been away because he doesn't want to make films. He's been attached to plenty of film projects, but just a streak of circumstances outside of his control or him being more discerning have just created that gap of time. And I think, one of the silver linings of the pandemic was that it allowed us to get a new Todd Field movie. And I'm very happy about that because I forgot how much I really liked his painting of tension in a film. The tension in this movie in particular is quite precise. I think it's a movie that's not afraid of what's going on right now, not just with the cancel culture stuff, but with social media. It's a film that uses social media as a tool, but a tool that I don't think will watch this movie in 10 years or 15 years and find it dated or find it a little like cute, that's what directors thought it was like to use social media in 2022. I think I've used this word already, but he just has such a timeless approach to weaving technology into his movies. And I think it's because he understands how to use technology or to use the mood and feeling of a current moment like he did in Little Children. He knows how to use that as part of the narrative so that when you are actually seeing everything unfold, it's not just throwaway. It's not something you can take out of the movie and everything stays the same. I think that's why it works, because all the little moments where you have people using social media in this movie or communicating with each other and things being unsaid or unclear in a text message, or somebody posting about Tar while she's sleeping and what that says about her, what that says about what people think of Tar, like all of that stuff is instrumental to understanding the person through how other people see her, so that when things happen later in the movie, it doesn't feel like, sorry for the lack of a better word here, but it doesn't feel like whiplash. It all feels like it's properly building to that moment. It properly feels like the kettle is boiling over for a reason that the audience can keep up with. And that to me is like what makes this movie a bit special, because it is that kind of movie that young middle school Will Ashens can watch, and recognize the artistry here and start to unpack it for themselves, because it's accessible without being dumb, if that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, you go back to like his earlier two films, In the Bedroom and Little Children. And I mean, obviously it's been a little bit since I've seen those films, so maybe I'm oversimplifying them with this description, but they're kind of like kitchen sink dramas, but they're kind of boilerplate thrillers at the same time. There's this like I remember the teaser for Little Children. It's like a train kind of coming to the station as you're seeing like the little nuggets of the scene and drama. And it's such a great teaser. If you ever haven't had a chance to watch it, fantastic teaser. Like that's to me is like one of the top examples of like how you should do a teaser for a film. And I feel like
literally what I said earlier. You're just agreeing with me.
Sure. Fair enough. I'm just echoing what you said. Not unlike the echoes in this film.
We should talk about that when, you know, the supernaturally kind of stuff happening in this movie. It's the one thing that I don't think quite works, but I'm trying to be open-minded because I might have just missed something.
I don't know if I can agree with that. Actually, I was quite taken by and delighted actually.
Where she's like hearing things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because that kind of reminded me of like Memoria from for me earlier this year, though for you last year. That film, it's kind of a weird sort of companion piece to this film in that way. Like you're seeing a character kind of allured and chasing this. It's not as direct as that film, but like, you know, she's also kind of chasing this like thing that she can't quite understand. That's kind of throwing her off her axis, kind of you know.
Yeah.
Cracking the harmony of her life, like this thing that's been very pristinely crafted and meticulously designed and folded throughout her years and her career. And you know, in that film, it's a little bit more slower. It's a little bit more kind of methodical, I guess, in a different sort of way.
Memoria. It's more investigative.
Investigate, yeah. It's a little bit more kind of like melancholic too, I feel like, but like in a way that, I don't know, I think I end up liking that movie maybe a little bit more than you did. I don't know if we've actually ever talked about it in full, but I was really taken by that film. I feel like that has a similar sort of like haunting quality to it, where like there's a lot of scenes that kind of play out in like real time, but it doesn't feel like it's getting drawn out, like, you know, being kind of taffy pulled out too long. Like it just kind of adds to the believability and the expanding of the story and the themes. And yeah, I don't know. I think those supernatural elements really kind of add to what I find so invigorating and kind of haunting about this film. But I mean, we can kind of talk about that more.
I mean, well, maybe I don't know why we never really talked too much about Memoria, but I mean, the entire scene that you're talking about, like that plays out in real time in the sound booth, hard for me not to adore that scene with all of its sound mixing and sound editing and stuff that I do on a daily basis.
I mean, there's so much in that movie that's played out in real time though. Like there's that scene where she's like walking to that classroom and they're just like playing like a full song and you're just watching it like with her, and like there's just so many, like her getting like like getting ice cream just kind of played out in real time. I don't know, there's so many scenes in that movie I feel like that play out quite beautifully.
The one that sticks out to me is the sound booth though, because that was just such a like true to life sort of like just the noodling with sound and trying to get everything out of something that you can't really fundamentally change. I mean, it's just wonderful scene.
Yeah, I mean that's probably like the scene of that film. I'm sure. I mean, it's I get what you're saying.
I just didn't get that same though. I guess I didn't get that same feeling from the supernatural stuff in this because I guess my mind kept getting like jerked around on what was going on exactly, because there are some scenes that sort of play it as her, you know, oh, is this how you make music in her mind? Like this is how she composes and her sort of putting things together. For some reason that didn't connect as well to me with how it seems like the movie is trying to connect that to the way the cellist composes her music and thinks of things more matter-of-factly. Doesn't have to rely on this sort of puffed up fake version of being a genius in order to improve things. And I think one of my favorite relationships in the movie, like dynamics, is her and Olga, because I just absolutely love the character of Olga and how she just, her, you know, sort of blunt, but obviously like she's just such a great representation of Gen Z to me, where she's just able to take the piss out of older people so easily, and people are so much more obsessed with her than she is with them. There's just something really, I think, beautiful about the way that character is constructed, that it rings true without being a caricature. Like I feel like I see that character and it's like I haven't seen that character before, but I immediately understand who Olga is and why she is the way she is, and it's probably the scariest like human being in a movie that I've seen since Barbarian, which I saw last week.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like the closest the movie might come to kind of playing into caricatures of Gen Z would be the scene that I really love is the Juilliard scene. You know, like that incredible single take, and like there's like a couple moments in there where it like kind of verges onto like you know, stereotyping Gen Z, kind of like putting them into a certain box. But that, I mean, obviously.
I was like, oh no, Todd. Like,
but I mean, that scene's also just incredible because it's like it feels like it could break at any given moment, and it just plays out so great, so beautiful. It keeps going, and there's a part of you it's like maybe the scene will go on for 20 minutes, maybe it will go on for 30 minutes. Who knows? It's just
the big scene right before it was the interview scene, which was I think like what, a 10-minute single take. I mean, it was insane.
Well, there are a couple of dinner scenes and stuff in between.
I know. I'm just saying, like that's why I said the big scene before.
The big scene. Okay. Fair enough. But yeah, I mean, just that. I mean, that's probably like one of the scenes that's going to be, you know, lasting and like probably going to be studied as far as like how it's written and played out and directed. But yeah, I mean, just an incredible scene. And yeah, it verges so easily, like you said, like it could verge into parody, it could verge into you know, negative stereotyping, but I think it just
I mean, what was that one we had just talked about where it's like, oh, like they watch TikToks once or something? We just talked about a movie that did that, and that's what I was nervous about this movie doing.
Oh, but I was going to say with your comment about technology in the film, I think to your point, yeah, it's a tool and not a crutch, in a way that like. You know, I think for me that was more on my mind with last week's Decision to Leave, as far as like how it had that kind of old fashioned noir Hitchcockian style of storytelling, right. But it had very
that's
modern.
Why I mentioned Tár last week when we were talking about Decision to Leave. Exactly.
Fair enough. But yeah, I wanted to make sure I brought that up before we got sidetracked once more.
I mean, that's the thing. There's so many things to get into with this movie that we could spend, I think, all day dissecting all these different scenes. I could talk to you about the interview scene, you know, for at least, you know, 20 minutes, double the length of the actual scene itself, probably, in which we just, our first real impression of this character after we sort of get this diegetic, you know, outline of somebody introducing her, but then we see that it was written for her, and then we see her actually do a performance. Like we never see her really conduct a performance, but we see her conduct a performance, if that makes sense, right? Her persona is like what she's conducting.
But not only that, but like we're seeing like her outfit being made, like all these different, you know, small people. Not small people, like people lower on the totem pole, quote unquote.
The way she lays out records.
Yeah, of her life. And then not before that, or not long before that, I mean, we see in a somewhat unorthodox fashion, we see like credits that would be normally at the end of the film at the beginning, and they kind of play out as they would during the end credits. And I love that decision, not only because I'm one of those suckers that loves to sit during credits, and I love that the movie kind of forces people to sit through credits that they normally wouldn't sit through, you know, to generalize audiences. But I also just love that it adds to the commentary of the film, which is that like it's a symphony. There's like all these people make the noise that we hear. Like it's not just a conductor that obviously makes it's a symphony. It's a harmonic. You know, it's this whole. Everyone kind of contributes to the thing, and it's just Tár's ego that prevents her from really seeing that. She's so caught up in the mystique, and the idea of her that this, you know, she's unable to see that, and the movie recognized that and says it from the upfront. Even having that shot, like when that interview scene starts, we don't start from on the stage. We start with Krista with the red hair in the back, and the way back. We see everything from the audience perspective, and we're seeing it from, you know, the lowest person, but we're hearing all these things about Tár, so we get the idea, the mystique and everything, but we Field always makes it apparent that like we shouldn't believe in the quote unquote lie of who Tár is. It's, you know, it's a parable. It's meant to be kind of like a warning, but we also understand the greatness of Tár. Like, you know, it's not like we're like supposed to be like tissing Tár the whole time, because like you said, there are these nuances where it's like we see when she is a good or actually decent person. Like she's a lot more complicated. She's human. But it's, you know, not meant to be like an endorsement of her or how, you know, she can be a great musician, but also recognizing that like she is going to be doomed to fail because she never really sees the things that we're seeing from the get-go. I don't know. I just think that's all amazing.
So, okay. So what you're saying is that it's not good for one person to have too much power, because it takes a lot of people to make something work, and that ego can kind of get in the way of something really great being enjoyed by people. Like, for example, if you like laid off half the people who work for you after you take over something, and you know, this let's call it an app, since we were talking about technology. Let's say we had this great app that had to do with birds, or I don't know, and you just kind of ran it into the ground because you don't know what you're doing. I guess Todd Field is trying to say something about, parable. I like that word a lot. It's a bit of a cautionary tale, isn't it? I have to think on that. Well, I kind of want to connect it to current events, but I just don't have the placement. Somebody that everybody considers a genius, but uses their power.
Well, I mean,
have to chew on
quote someone who's been in the news that seems to be in dire need of this lesson. No one man should have all that power. The clock's ticking. I just count the hours.
I like that we can go from there. We don't even have to say any names, right? But okay. I'm a big fan of this movie. And like you said before, Will, I think this is definitely one of those things that, like, read stuff about it, right? I mean, I haven't read a lot of reviews yet. And I'll be honest, I haven't read a lot of reviews and had my mind kind of open to anything too much with the movie. I've just seen a lot of, like, it's been a bit of an echo chamber of, like, stuff I already agree with. But I do want to start reading some negative reviews of this and see what people have to say about, what they didn't get. The only, like, negativity I've seen around this movie has been sort of people who think that, like, girl boss movies are great. So I'm just like, okay, well, I know I'm not going to agree with them on that. So, because this is not a girl boss movie. This is not I care a lot.
Yeah.
But not that I care a lot is glorifying girl bosses necessarily. But I think a lot of people watch that movie with a weird take.
I mean, I certainly think this movie is better than that one, but we've discussed that movie we've discussed that one pretty thoroughly at this point. The only real criticisms I've heard so far that I was kind of curious to hear from you about, but this is kind of tricky to talk about because it relates to the ending, is I've heard some people say it's kind of a little bit racist at the end as far as its depiction, I don't even know how to really get into it without discussing spoilers, but I've heard some people criticize its simplicity of certain cultures in a way that I don't know. I can kind of understand where they're coming from. I think the ending is pretty brilliant, but I can see where they're coming from at the same time.
Yeah, I can't say I jive with that at all. I actually think that anyway, I can't say anything too specific. I think that it's purposefully, like, I think what he's doing is obviously not malicious. It's speaking to finding the people who don't care about such an American or Western centric person. And I think that there is something kind of, opening about that, or something that's a bit more, I think, circumspective about how, like, we all obsess over these celebrities and think that they're the center of the world, and everybody is just singularly obsessed with, the comings and goings of the downfalls and on all this stuff. But I think it ends with just kind of like, but then when you really look at it, most people in the world don't care at all. They have other things on their mind and they're more interested in, and they're just living their lives. And I think there's something kind of quietly interesting about that. But
yeah. I don't know. I mean, to me, the ending is just like, and again, it's hard to talk about without diving into spoilers, but I mean, comparing to Whiplash, where, like, that's a film where the ending is like, you expect to kind of wrap up at one point and then it just kind of throws you on your heels and it becomes even more brilliant because of what this decision you don't expect. And it becomes, kind of masterful in a way that's like, it shakes you up. In this film, it's a little bit more, like I said, like, I think it just kind of lays the cards on the table from the get-go, but you kind of get caught up in the mystique, and you're also aware of the mystique, but at the same time, you kind of, where things are going, but you're also kind of thrown off in the way that Lydia is. And it's just like, I just like, the ending is inevitable, but at the same time, it's not the ending you expect. And I think that just is a credit to Field's direction here and his screenwriting, that, he kind of gives you the ending you need for the film and the one you should expect, but also not the one you expect at the same time. And it's just, that's just incredible filmmaking.
If you can check out Tar for yourself, it is playing in more theaters as of October 28th. It did widen its release. I'm not 100% sure how many theaters it's in. I don't think it's a wide release. So hopefully it's in your area, because I think this is one worth checking out on the big screen. And we might still have a few conversations about it moving into Oscar season. Particularly, we didn't mention, but I think Florian Hofmeister's cinematography in here might get a mention. The music is from Hildur Guðnadóttir, who I think I would be kind of shocked if this didn't get a best composition nod, but we'll have to wait and see. It's Oscar season could be certainly unpredictable, but this at this current moment is one of the ones to talk about. It is 158 minutes long, so yeah, you're looking at a long movie here. It's about 2.5 hours, but I certainly did not feel it. To me, this felt 90 minutes, but I was quite captivated by it. So who knows? Your mileage might vary. Let's play the Rotten Tomatoes game, though. America's favorite game show. Maybe the world's. I haven't done any focus testing, but we have 210 reviews counted. Lots of reviews. I don't think we've seen a review in the 200s on Rotten Tomatoes in a while, because I don't even think Black Adam was that high. But at this point, a lot of critics have seen it. So, well, Ashton, what's your best guess? Where do you think Tar, what note do you think this movie struck with critics?
I'm going to say it's probably high, but I don't know if it's like 99% high. But I think it's like kissing that like echelon of Rotten Tomatoes. I'm gonna say like 96%.
So it's a little bit lower.
Okay.
Do you think it's still in the 90s, or do you think it's in the high 80s?
I think it's in the low 90s. I'm gonna say like 92%.
There you go, 92. All right. I was kind of curious. I was like, well, will you go much farther than 92? But yeah, there you go. 92%. It's certified fresh. What about audience score? We have 250 plus verified ratings. Some folks have come out and they've seen it.
I have to imagine the audience response to this film is notably more mixed than
the audience score for this score of a movie.
The audience score for this film, at least based on my audience, like I kind of went to a sort of affluent art house theater to see this film, and the audience I saw it with were it seemed like they didn't really know what to make of the film. I was definitely positive. That my friend I went with it, she was very positive, but it seemed like the crowd was a little bit more tempered, I guess, in their expectations versus the execution. So I will say 68%.
That's a little bit higher. Being a little mean to Tar. It's 71. So, it's up there. I've never noticed this before, but Rotten Tomatoes has something called Audience Says under the critics' consensus.
Oh, boy. Is this a new feature?
I got to read this.
Okay.
Tar can be tough to follow, although Cate Blanchett in the title role makes it mostly worth the effort. I don't know. Maybe I'm getting a little snobby, Will, but yeah. I don't understand what's tough to follow about Tar.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, I don't know. This is a type of film it's very easy to get snobby about, and I was even just snobby a moment ago, so I can't say I'm much better. But
because I could see people like not being thoroughly interested in every scene, but like not understanding what's going on. Like I don't know. I struggle to wrap my head around that. But okay.
I mean, like I said, I think the movie very much respects the audience intelligence. You even said, I think, at one point, the movie sort of expects you to, kind of tie some things that doesn't fully make explicit, particularly towards the end of the film. But, I can see some audiences not really digging that, maybe, wanting more closure, maybe expecting a certain thing from this movie and not getting that. I can be understanding. I don't agree with that, but I can at least understand where they're coming from.
All right. We don't have a cinema score, but we do have a Letterboxd average rating. Now, this has been viewed or logged on Letterboxd 37,000 times. So pretty good for a movie. This it's not a super well known. And this is in, I think, the third or fourth movie of 2022 that we can say is in the top Letterboxd 250. So that gives you a nice hint, Will Ashton, of the average rating. But it is number 202 right now. So that said, what do you think the average rating is from 0 to 5?
4.3.
Quite close, only 0.1 off. So do you think it's 4.2 or 4.4?
4.4.
No, it's 4.2. I would have guessed the same, considering it's in the top 250, but that's the thing. But sometimes the hints can be even more tricky. But all right, that is Tar. Certainly well acclaimed, and I hope that everybody listening here manages to check it out if they're interested in a theater. That would be ideal. What are we talking about next week, Will Ashton? Are we talking about a movie?
Yeah, we're talking about like a
what's coming out?
An indie blockbuster, an indie film. I mean to say, a little indie darling called Black Panther: Wakanda Forever.
Complicated title. I hope it's related to Black Panther 2018, which was nominated for Best Picture.
Yes, it was.
I'm getting ready. I'm going to get ready to see Wakanda Forever today.
Oh, yeah,
So
that's
I'm
right.
excited.
You see that today. I see it on Wednesday, and we might, just might, be able to get our episode of Cinemaholics out a little bit earlier than usual for that reason.
We'll see. I mean, we always want it to be as early as possible.
Sure.
We want the listeners to enjoy.
But, I mean, we're a little late on this one as far as when it's coming out. That's all my fault, obviously. But,
not your fault. It's Pittsburgh's fault for not playing the movie earlier.
Nah, I mean,
for you.
I think this movie played a little bit. I think it's been playing in the city for like a week or two, but I hadn't had a chance to see it until this past Sunday. So that's
I'm
on
honest.
me.
I was giving you an out and everything, but you were honest with the listeners. That's what you can expect from Cinemaholics.
But
honestly.
Cinemaholics, we try to be forthright on this here podcast.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah, maybe so. But yeah, no, I mean, I'm excited for Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. I feel like the early responses I'm seeing aren't as enthusiastic as I was hoping they would be. I'm not sure what's like,
and I'm not paying attention. I'm just gonna see it. You know what? I hope. I love it. I want it. And I need a win from Marvel because I'm pretty close to just tuning out entirely at this point. Unless it's like
need a win. You've been more charitable than me for the most part.
I know.
Except for Doctor Strange.
You already have like this. You're in the acceptance phase where you're just like, yeah, you know what? It's okay. Like, John, calm down. Like, this is how it is. And I'm still sort of like in denial, bargaining, all that stuff.
Sure. But I mean, I will say,
the movies. I like some of the shows.
I feel like Ryan Coogler is one of the few filmmakers at Marvel where I feel like he has an authorial stamp. Like, I watch a Ryan Coogler movie, it could be a Marvel movie, it could be Fruitvale Station, it could be Creed, and I'm like, this is a film made by Ryan Coogler, and I hope, even if it falters compared to some other previous Marvel movies and in line with a lot of the lesser Phase 4 movies, I hope it at least has his creative stamp on it. That's what I'm hoping, at least.
Well, I think there is a lot for us to say coming up, and let's say it then. For now, though, we're going to head on out, and thank you as always for listening. Find us on social media and all that good stuff. Show notes is where you can connect with us. Send us an email, cinemaholicspodcast@gmail.com, or leave us a voicemail on the Swell app. Links to that in show notes as well. From the Internet California, I'm John Negroni.
And for the Internet Pennsylvania, I'm Washington.
See you next time.